Let's go! Hey everybody, and welcome back to the King Joey Football Podcast. My name is Joey, and my, how the turntables. Last time, we were, I think, right before week one, or match week one, and right now we sit just about 3 weeks later, right before match week 4. And guess who's at the top of the table, bitch? You got it. The mighty Arsenal. Let's go. A lot of people would not have put us here. It's still, very early in the season. A lot of people would not have put us here. A lot of people would have said that, we would falter against some of the smaller clubs or against some of the clubs that we've played so far this season. And I think we've proven that that's not the case. I think we've proven that this team has some fight in it. Again, it's early. It's early. But there are a couple of other teams that look real bad. A couple of other teams that look like they're some of the relegation fodder that I should have mentioned last episode when I said that Bournemouth and Leeds and Brentford were going to go down. We're going to talk about that a little later, though. But there are some other clubs that you would not think would be in that conversation. Just might be. Let's start with a quick recap, just kind of talk about some of the general things that have gone on within the English Premier League. Yep, you got it. Arsenal at the top of the table. We have 3 games played, 3 games won, 9 points out of 9, 9 goals scored to only 2 goals against. Arsenal have looked really, really, really good. And again, there's some other clubs that have looked really bad, but we're going to talk about those guys a little bit later. Arsenal have looked really good, and right now, we're only 3 match weeks in. Again, about to head into the 4th. Today is Friday, August 26th, so tomorrow is when, I guess, match week 4 starts. But as of right now, right before match week 4, Arsenal are the only team in the entire Premier League with a perfect record, 9 points out of a possible 9. Man City has faltered. Liverpool has really faltered. Manchester United, they got a good win recently, but we're not even really going to even talk about them because they look absolutely god-awful. But I think Ten Hag needs time there, and I think their most recent result is probably indicative of that. Hey, if he gets the time, if he gets the chance to really implement his system, if he gets a chance to win over that locker room, that dressing room, I think he's gonna be there for the long haul. I gotta say, they looked terrible their first 2 games of the season, but in their 3rd game, their most recent game where they got a win, I thought they actually looked really, really good. Ten Hag made some really big calls. We're talking about some big dick energy here. They panned out because they won a really, really crucial game and one that their supporters will, of course, every season, no matter how good or bad they are, a fixture that every season their supporters are going to want to see them really give their all in. Arsenal top of the table, Man City, of course, second. Man City faltered against Newcastle, and let me tell you something. This Newcastle team, that game ended up being a 3-3 draw. One of the best games I've seen this season, probably the best game I've seen this season. We're going to talk about that a little later, but just an all-around great game. But Newcastle United. Newcastle United. So towards the end of last season, Arsenal lost that really big match against Newcastle United. One of the ones where we just needed to win like one match and we could have maybe guaranteed ourselves Champions League. That loss actually now doesn't look so bad. When you take into context, I think the second half of last season, on points, Newcastle were the best team in the league. On points from, I think, like Boxing Day to the end of the season, Newcastle were, I believe, the best on points in the league. They were really, 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 really good. And they have just kind of continued to be really, 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 really good now. They sit in 6th place right now. They have 5 points. They've played 3 games. They've had 5 points. They have had no losses. They've had 1 win and 2 draws. And, of course, one of the draws was against Manchester City. So, really good showing out of Newcastle so far. Also, some teams that have been surprising, Leeds United. Rodrigo and Jack Harrison and some of those guys are just playing out of their skin right now. So, always got to shout out to Leeds United. So, again, we're going to talk about them a little bit later in a segment that I'm going to start doing, or a piece of the podcast that I'm going to start doing, where I talk about the things that I might have been wrong about in the previous podcast. So, but for now, I want to talk about 3 specific matches from last game week, and this is something that I'll probably do every week going forward as well, if they're interesting enough. And there were several interesting ones, so much so that I had to leave the Leeds-Chelsea match off of this list. Leeds beat Chelsea in what is one of their most impressive performances that I've seen since they came back up to the Premier League, and that game isn't even on this list. So the 3 games that are on this list are Arsenal, Bournemouth, City, Newcastle, and Manchester United, Liverpool. So, of course, I want to start with Arsenal, Bournemouth. Just an amazing, amazing performance from Arsenal. And, of course, we all know I'm biased. You can see the stuff in the room. I'm biased, and Arsenal are my squad. However, I think it's impossible to deny how good that Arsenal have looked throughout the first 3 games of the season so far. So against Bournemouth, Arsenal won that game 3-0. That was a game that happened at the Vitality, so we were away at Bournemouth. We wore those awesome, awesome pink kits, those pink third kits, which are just très magnifique. Very, very nice kits. I'm a big fan of all 3 of our kits this year. A lot of people don't like the collar on the home kits, but I'm a big collar fan on kits, so love it. And it's got like a cool, like a lightning bolt design, which I think is really cool. I know I'm 12, so anyway, 3-0 against Bournemouth at the Vitality in a game where Martin Odegaard scored twice inside of 12 minutes. I think he scored at the 5th minute and at the 11th minute. And then capped off in the second half, William Saliba with a brilliant sort of swept, weak-footed shot across the keeper, which birthed a brand new William Saliba chant that is as earwormy songs can get. If you are not a fan of Latin-inspired chants and music, then that's one you probably do not want to look up, because let me tell you something. You'll be singing it from here to kingdom come. But Arsenal have looked really good in this game against Bournemouth, just like the other 2 games that we've played so far against Crystal Palace and against Leicester City. It just never looked in doubt. It never looked like Arsenal were going to lose this game. They were comfortably, I want to say they were comfortably in 3rd or 4th gear, as a maximum. They still had another couple gears to go. And yes, that might be a reflection of how poor this Bournemouth team was, but the Bournemouth team, they didn't give up. They fought the whole time. I thought their effort was actually admirable. They just don't have, they just don't have some of the things you need, and I think Scott Parker's in a bad spot as far as, some of the things that he might need and some of the resources and players and so on and so forth. So, but they gave it a valiant effort and they fought the whole time, but this thing was just never never in doubt, never in question. And it's been a while since I've seen Arsenal put together three successive league performances where the results seemed like it was just never in doubt, And it's, I got to say, it's a good time to be an Arsenal supporter right now. It's a really good time to be an Arsenal fan. It's a really good time to be in or around the club, because, it just feels good right now. And again, it's early in the season, but it feels good, and we're starting to get that feeling back. We're starting to get an identity underneath Arteta, and that's exactly what we want to see. I think this year is the year. I think this year is the year that we really start to hit some of the goals, and I think we really start to challenge where folks maybe don't think that we can challenge. So really good showing. Gabriel Jesus, again, even though he didn't score a goal, he just, his presence and the way he leads the line and the movement and some of his things, some of his runs and some of the movement that he does, it's absolutely insane. And he just opens up everything for the other 3 attacking players. So when I say that, I typically mean Bukayo Saka on the right, Gabriel Martinelli on the left, and then Martin Odegaard in behind, sort of in that 10 spot, in that cam spot. So, he just opens up everything for those guys to where they can kind of go freely and do what they want to do, and it's just been turning into goals. I honestly think, he's one of the best players in the league so far based on, the first 3 match weeks of this brand new season. And again, it still is that. It's still a new season. So the second game that I want to talk about is Manchester City, Newcastle. Manchester City, Newcastle. This is the best game. This is the best match that I've seen this season. it was amazing. Okay, as good as Arsenal have played, some of the other teams that we've played just weren't quite there. So the match as a whole is entertaining for me, but as a neutral, the most entertaining match that I've seen this season is this Newcastle United Manchester City match that took place on Sunday at St. James's Park. It was a 3-3 draw where Almiron, Wilson, and Trippier scored for Newcastle. Trippier with just a peach of a free kick. And listen, we know Trippier. We know that he can do that. We know that he's got that in his locker. But gosh, every time he does it, man, he's one of the best around in those dead ball situations. Meanwhile, for Man City, Gundogan scored after like 5 minutes. Erling Haaland scored, and Bernardo Silva scored. Bernardo Silva, speaking of, in fact, who I think Guardiola and several of the City execs have come out and saying, "Hey, listen, we understand Barcelona's interested, but he is not going anywhere. He's staying at City," and I think that's a smart move for them because this guy is really good, and he really could go forward and be one of the world's best, especially as we're getting towards the twilight of some of the old guard, your Messis and Ronaldos and your Ibrahimoviches and those guys that are really starting to age out of the game, and there's time for a new crop of elite sort of S tier, God tier talent, and God tier, world class players. So, and I think this guy Silva could really be, on that level, as well as a couple of other guys at Manchester City. But this was just, my God, it's a game where Manchester City had 21 shots, 10 shots on target. Newcastle had 12 shots, 6 shots on target. So Man City almost doubled everything that Newcastle did as far as both shots and shots on target, yet the game ends 3-3, which shows you that when Newcastle get their chances, they typically end up taking their chances. And that also shows you that Man City need quite a few chances to get to 2 and 3 goals in a match, which I think may kind of play to their league position this year. That just may play to some things within their squad because, and I've been saying this since the season started, I think Erling Haaland is the best player that moved to a Premier League club this season. He's the best player that was an incoming transfer at a Premier League club. However, he just doesn't seem like a Man City player to me as far as the style that Pep wants to not initiate there because he's been doing it for years and years. The style that Pep, I think, would want to continue doing. He just doesn't seem to fit that style. They don't seem to really play with sort of an out-and-out big, tall, strong target man like he is now. Of course, he's got this amazing pace, which sort of belies his bigness and strongness, but he doesn't seem like the archetypal Manchester City center forward to me, which is actually more of like a false nine or more of a little bit more of a withdrawn center forward. So because of that, Man City have had to sort of change their style to adapt to having him in the team. And when you have a player that's that talented, that's probably what you should do. But, it's just one of those things where they had sort of a tried and true formula, at least in the league. We could talk about Europe, but, it's just so hard to win a Champions League. But in the league, they had sort of a tried and true formula. And, it's been a departure from that formula to try to get Erling Haaland in this team. And so, I think that may play into it. It's just a chemistry thing. It's not saying that Erling Haaland is a bad player because of course he's not. He's like a top 5 world player in the world right now. It's just one of those things where it just because you have a great player doesn't mean that it's a great fit for that player. And it's not like he's not doing anything. He's not scoring goals. He is scoring goals. He's already scored a few goals. He's scored like 3 goals or something like that already this season. And it's just fit wise. So I think it's something to keep our eyes on. This game between Newcastle and Man City just went back and forth and back and forth. Ilkay Gundogan scored at the 5th minute, and then it was Almiron who scored at the 28th minute, and then Callum Wilson scored at the 39th minute to go up 2-1. Newcastle went up 2-1 at that point. And then Trippier scored in the 54th minute to put them up 3-1. So 54 minutes gone, Trippier scores just one of the most beautiful free kicks that you'll see from right outside the edge of the area, right at that, on the left side of goal, right at that nice angle for a right footer that can really put a lot of bend and whip on the ball. So 54 minutes have passed. It's 3-1. It's looking bad for City. It's looking like Newcastle are just going to stomp them into the ground. But then City, of course, being City, 7 minutes later, Erling Haaland scores 61st minute, and then 3 minutes after that, Bernardo Silva scores. So 54 minutes, it's 3-1. 64 minutes, it's 3-3, and it stays 3-3 for the remainder of the game. And that's how it ends. Just a brilliant game to watch. A brilliant game, whether you watch the whole game or whether you just want to pull up the highlights package on YouTube and watch that. But just a brilliant match to watch. And two teams, I think, to really look out for. Of course, Manchester City and the title race. And Newcastle, I thought it might be another season before Newcastle sort of prepared the official gate crash effort. It might be this season. They might be ready to try and gate crash into some European spots and really shake things up towards the top part of the top table, or the top fourth or top quarter of the table, or let's say top half of the table. Don't know that they're going to get to, say, fifth, but they're looking to gate crash maybe that sixth spot, get a European spot, that seventh spot, get that's also technically a European spot because that's I think a Conference League, Europa Conference League spot there. So really just a great game, the best game I've seen thus far in this still sort of season that's sort of in its infancy here. So now, the third game I want to talk about, the third match, Manchester United versus Liverpool at Old Trafford. Manchester United this year have looked like utter dog shit. Match week 1, match week 2. They got mollywopped by Brentford 4-0. Speaking of Brentford, they kind of came out of nowhere. But they got destroyed to the point where after 2 weeks, they were in 20th place with something like 6 goals scored against, no goals scored for, a goal difference of -6, sitting in 20th place. It was really reminiscent of where Arsenal were after their first 3 games last season as well. As an aside, I heard the way the English media attacked Arsenal last season when that happened. I really wanted them to keep the same energy for Manchester United, and it just was night and day, right? Of course, the only people that were keeping that energy for Man United were the ex-Man United stars like Gary Neville and Roy Keane and those guys that were like, this isn't fucking good enough, man. It's not good enough. And it wasn't. And then Liverpool came to town, and Manchester United, through goals from, I believe, Marcus Rashford, and I can't remember who scored the second goal. Let me look it up real quick. Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. I can't believe I forgot that Jadon Sancho scored that opening goal, which was a brilliant goal. And if you know me, you know that I'm one of Jadon Sancho's biggest critics, because Jadon Sancho has been extremely underwhelming for the hype that surrounded his return to a Premier League club. We all know that he, kind of grew up in City's academy. He went abroad to Germany, to Borussia Dortmund, and then came back and is now at Man United. And I don't want to talk about transfer fee, because if you know me, I don't necessarily like to talk about a player's transfer fee and how he's expected to perform, because his transfer fee, he has no say in. It really has not a whole lot to do with the player himself. So I don't really hold a player's transfer fee against him, because that's not something that the player has decided to pay. It's something that the buying club has decided to pay. And Manchester United paid a shitload of money for Jadon Sancho, which is kind of a signal of his quality and what Manchester United thought. And we know that Manchester United have a terrible record with buying players since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Just a god-awful record of buying players. Only a few have actually panned out and been really, really good for the club. But Jadon Sancho gets the ball, 16th minute, gets the ball in the box. I can't remember who it was that streaked down the left, cut back into Jadon Sancho towards like in between the penalty area and the edge of the box. He gets the ball, goes to his right, dekes back, sits, I think it was James Milner, sits him on his ass. I mean, absolutely, I think it was Milner. He's banished him to the shadow realm here. Come back towards his left side. Another little move as Van Dijk and somebody else comes in to try to block the shot. And then just a brilliant little right-footed side foot into the corner of the net. And it was in. He got the ball, and it was in before any Liverpool player seemingly knew what the hell was even happening. And it was a brilliant, brilliant goal. And I think Sancho has been extremely underwhelming for how good he is and the talent that I know is there. He's been extremely underwhelming at Man United. But when you score a goal like that, please go look at this goal. When you score a goal like that, it's worth giving you your flowers for. So congrats, Sancho, on scoring that goal. Marcus Rashford pitched in with a goal in the 53rd minute, which is another excellent goal. Mohamed Salah nicked one back in the 81st minute, but it was just too little too late. And even when it was 2-1 for the last 9-10 minutes plus stoppage time of that game, to me, it never seemed like Liverpool would Liverpool were really, really poor. They were really poor on the day. It never seemed like they were gonna get it back. It never seemed like they were gonna, just have anything to challenge United. And Erik ten Hag, in this game, Erik ten Hag sat his captain, Harry Maguire, and sat probably still right now his best player, Cristiano Ronaldo. Sat them on the bench, did not start them. Started Elanga and I believe Lindelof. Let me double check that. Who started? No, I'm sorry. It was Rafa Varane and Lisandro Martinez at center back. And we all know about Martinez. He's like 5'0". Arsenal were interested in him, but I think that was more to be a backup left back to Kieran Tierney. And then once the price got out of control, we pivoted to a £35 million purchase for Alexander Zinchenko. So Lisandro Martinez, I actually thought was brilliant in this game. After he really looked below par in the first two games, I thought he was brilliant in this game. Varane, again, looked below par. I thought he was brilliant in this game. I still think United have some work to do, and it's gonna be a lot of pain. It's gonna be a lot of growing pains. But in midfield, they started Eriksen and McTominay, and then Fernandes sort of in the 10 hole, and then on the left they started Elanga in place of Cristiano Ronaldo. I thought Elanga was brilliant in this game, and just his pace, his directness. It offers you something different to Ronaldo, because as Ronaldo's gotten older, he's become less direct and more like stand in one space and dribble, and this is not a I'm not shitting on CR7. I think he's a brilliant player and I think he's like one of the best of all time. But it's just Father Time is like a quadrillion and 0. He's undefeated and it catches up with us all. So as Ronaldo gets older, he becomes a little bit less mobile, and Anthony Elanga, who's like 12 years old, just comes in and he's like a Labrador puppy. He just wants to run and run and run. Give me the ball and let me run. And that's what he did. I thought he was really, really, really good in this game. And I thought Liverpool were poor. And I've seen Liverpool be poor before, but I thought Liverpool were uncharacteristically poor. I thought their defense was in a shambles. And it's like their first choice defense, except for maybe Joe Gomez, who started this game beside Van Dijk, as opposed to like a Konate or a Joel Matip, who might normally start in that sort of area at that right center back position. But usually their defense is so compact and they're so difficult to get past. I thought they were extremely poor in defense on Monday night, and they really got found out by a young Manchester United forward line that was really just eager to come in and kind of do their thing. So props to Manchester United. It's still going to be a painful season. They're still not in a good spot in the table. Again, it's early on, but I think this game is sort of indicative of what Erik ten Hag can do, maybe if you give him time, and maybe if the players there buy in to what he's talking about. because I think what's clear is that the man knows what he's doing as far as being a manager and as far as being a coach. So they just got to give him some time, and it's not going to happen this year. They might have a tough year this year. They might have some statement wins like this win against Liverpool, but it might just ultimately end up being a tough year for Man United. But those are my 3 games that I wanted to talk about. Couldn't even talk about Chelsea Leeds. Sorry, Chelsea. Yeah, those of you know me know I fucking hate Chelsea anyway, so they can get fucked. So, next thing I want to talk about is my power rankings. For right now, after 3 match weeks, my power rankings for EPL players and for EPL teams. So, let's start with players first. So, I'm going to do, every podcast, I'm going to do a power ranking of the top 5 or the top 5 power ranked players. This is Joey's power ranking, okay? Nobody else, just mine, right? You might disagree with me. I don't really care if you do. If you do, put it in the comments, but it's not going to hurt my feelings is what I mean. So even if you think I'm wrong, and, you know, I've been wrong before once back in like 2007, so I'm just saying it's possible, right? So for my EPL power rankings 1 through 5, I'm actually going to go 5 through 1, so I'm going to kind of go backwards, countdown style. So number 5, believe it or not, or actually before I do number 5, I want to do some honorable mentions. I have 3 honorable mentions. 2 of them come from Leeds United. Leeds United, who are currently sitting well into the top half of the table right now. And Leeds United have 2 players on my honorable mentions, and those 2 players are Jack Harrison and Brendan Aronson. The American Brendan Aronson. These 2 players have been amazing so far this Premier League season, and I'm actually looking forward to watching more of Leeds this season and watching these guys play. Not to mention another Leeds player who is actually in my top 5 proper power rankings here. But and my third honorable mention is actually Robert Sanchez, Brighton goalkeeper. 2 clean sheets out of 3 possible matches right now. I think he's been brilliant this year. So I would say Robert Sanchez. And next week, not this week, but not this podcast, but next podcast, I'm going to do a thing that I might do a few times throughout the season, where I'm going to try to pick an 11, a Premier League 11, without picking 2 players from the same club. It's harder to do than you might think, because all the clubs at the top have amazing players. So you might want to pick Haaland and KDB and Silva from Man City, or, you know, they have so many good players, and Arsenal had several good players, and Liverpool have several good players. So, you know, it's kind of a hard thing to do, which is why I'm not doing it today. I'm going to go ahead and do it on my next podcast. But back to my power rankings. Number 5, Wilfried Zaha, okay, of Crystal Palace. Wilfried Zaha, 3 goals, 3 matches, okay? So, technically, I guess you could say he's on pace for 38 goals this season. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but Zaha has, in the last few years, has displayed a sort of maturity that I think a lot of folks wanted to see when he made that move to United when he was really young. Now, he's still going to do his thing where he, you know, screams down the left, cuts inside, and if you think about him too hard, without even being anywhere near him, he's going to go down because he feels contact, right? So when I say maturity, take that with a grain of salt. But he's leveled up his game, I think, in a way that a lot of other players have not. I think he's going to be a lot of trouble this season, and I think under the tutelage of Patrick Vieira, who's managing them, you know, right now, I think he's done an excellent job so far since he's been there, and I think Zaha is really going to cause a pretty big nightmare for a lot of the league's right backs this season, and even some of the better ones. You know, he caused Trent Alexander-Arnold. He gave him an absolute nightmare in a game, in a 1-1 draw against Liverpool. Palace held Liverpool to a 1-1 draw in Matchweek 2. So, Wilfried Zaha, number 5 for me. Number 4, Kevin De Bruyne. KDB has 4 goal involvements, including 3 assists in 3 matches. KDB gonna KDB. This guy is, once the Messis and the Ronaldos retire, I said this about Silva, but I think KDB will be at the top of this group. I think he'll have an argument, at least an argument, for best player in the world if he keeps it up. He's 31 now, so he's not that much younger than Messi and Ronaldo, who are both in their sort of mid to late 30s. But, he could really be right at the top when those guys, when age takes those guys out, or at least take those guys really out of the spotlight. And this guy is that good. And these stats don't even surprise me anymore, that he's got 4 goal involvements in 3 matches. So he's going to do his thing. He's always going to do his thing. And we know we're going to get absolute top drawer ability and usually top drawer production from him if he stays healthy throughout the whole season. So number 3, another Man City player, Erling Haaland. Haaland has, again, 4 goal involvements in 3 matches. I think he's got 3 goals and 1 assist. I think we all knew that he was going to hit the ground running and be productive as soon as he got here, and he's doing that, He also misses some chances, which is even a little stupid for me to say, because all good strikers miss chances. It's about the fact that they're putting themselves in the right position and they're talented enough and good enough at finishing to make more chances or to convert more chances than they miss, or to convert enough chances to get 20, 30, 40 goals a season. And Erling Haaland is right there at the very top of that list of strikers, of center forwards that are able to do that. So Erling Haaland, 4 goal involvements in 3 matches. No surprise, I think, to anybody. I think Premier League, I think the Community Shield actually gave him the 1 warm-up game he needed, and he missed a couple chances in that game. I think he sort of figured it out after that game, and he's been flying ever since. Number 2, Rodrigo Moreno from Leeds United. Rodrigo has 5 goal involvements, including 4 goals in 3 matches. Rodrigo leads the league right this second in goals. He has been on an absolute tear. And again, another one like Zaha, who has leveled up his game. It leveled up his game significantly in almost an alarmingly short amount of time. So if you know me, and if you've listened to my last podcast on Anchor or Google Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, or if you watch me on YouTube, I had Leeds to go down this year because I thought them losing Rafinha and them losing Calvin Phillips was going to be the death of them. And meanwhile, Jack Harrison, Brendan Aronson, and Rodrigo have just been lighting the league on fire as if it's been their job for years and years and years and years. It's wild to me, but this guy has been on an absolute tear, and this guy has has displayed a mastery this season of right place, right time. So Rodrigo, 5 goal involvements, 4 goals in 3 matches, insane. And number 1, listen, there are going to be any fucking surprises here, right? Number 1, it's Gabriel Jesus. He has been absolutely, unequivocally the best player in the league this season so far, through 3 match weeks. He's got 5 goal involvements in 3 matches. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists, including a brilliant performance in match week 2 against Leicester City, where Arsenal scored 4 goals. Gabriel Jesus scored 2 of those goals, and he assisted the other 2 of those goals. One of the most brilliant center forward performances I've seen in quite a while. This guy has done. If you're an NFL fan, think about, if you're a fan of American sport, think about when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay. And pretty much all they did was bring Tom Brady into Tampa Bay. They added 1 or 2 other pieces here, but he immediately went and won a Super Bowl. And as Bruce Arians was their coach, was holding the trophy, he said, listen, this only took 1 man. It only took 1 man to get us from where we were to where we are now. If you think about Joe Burrow at Cincinnati Bengals, how he came in and almost single-handedly changed the entire culture of what was a poor franchise, a losing franchise, took him to a Super Bowl appearance last year. It's that kind of transformative performance and that sort of transformative presence from Gabriel Jesus, who just absolutely has changed the way that our side, the players on our side, think about playing, the way they think about winning, and the way they think about doing what they have to do and doing their job, just kind of on a day-to-day basis here. It's been really, really something special and incredible to watch, and I just can't wait to watch more of it. I can't wait to see the heights that this guy can hit. Mikel Arteta has unlocked this dude, and he's going on a fucking tear. And by all, it looks like it's going to continue by any account. If you've laid eyes on the man for 5 minutes on the field of play this season, I think you'll say, this guy, something has changed. Something is different. This guy is just simply built different this year. So, Gabriel Jesus, my number one spot for my King Joey's power rankings, player power rankings for the English Premier League. Gabriel Jesus, 5 goal involvements in 3 matches, 3 goals, 2 assists, including that brilliant performance against Leicester City. Now, for my team power rankings, and there are going to be some noticeable absences here because there have been some noteworthy teams that have been playing like absolute dog shit, as I mentioned earlier. Number 5, this is going to surprise you because you might think I was talking about this team just now. Number 5 is Liverpool. Liverpool sit close to the bottom of the table right now. Let's see where they actually are. Liverpool right now are sitting in 16th. They've played 3 games. They've lost 1 and they've drawn 2. They have 2 points right now. They're sitting in 16th place. 2 points ahead of 20th place West Ham right now. Liverpool are in 5th because they are the team that is down there that is most likely to, and I say most likely to, I can almost guarantee that they're going to figure some things out and be in the mix with the top 3-ish by the end of the season. That is why Liverpool are number 5 in my power rankings right now. Because as shaky as they've looked, and that really, really bad loss at Old Trafford to Man United, which, again, they looked as poor as I've ever seen them look in 20-something odd years that I've been watching Premier League football and watching them play. As poor as they've ever looked against Man United. But I think they'll figure it out. They have one of the world's best coaches. They have some of the world's best players. I think they're going to figure it out. I've always said, or not always, but this year, in the last few years, I've said that I think one of their biggest problems is that their midfield is aging. And again, I still believe that. I still hold true to that. But I think they'll figure it out. So Liverpool's in 5th place. 4th place for me, Newcastle United. Newcastle sit in 6th place right now. They've won 1, drawn 2, no losses, and they have 5 points right now. They're sitting in 6th place on the table, and one of those draws was, again, that brilliant performance against Man City, which I think they would count themselves unlucky to actually have drawn that game and not to have won it, because they were up 3-1 at one point, and we know that Man City is Man City, and we know how talented they are. But I think Newcastle will be disappointed that they didn't win that game, more so than they'll be happy that they took a point off of the would-be champions and the 2-time defending champions right now. So Newcastle, and again, I said it earlier, last half of the season they were absolutely the best team in the league, and it wasn't even that close really. They just looked so great the last half of last season, and it seems like they're the summer kind of cut into what they were doing and kind of cut into their streak, gave them a combo breaker, so to speak. But it's might take them some time, but I think they're going to maybe rediscover that form early this season. So they're going to be interesting to watch, and I think that especially when Arsenal play them, I think that we cannot look past them. I think Pep looked past them on this past Sunday, and he got hurt for it. So I think when Arsenal comes up against them, we need to absolutely go throw everything that we've got at them. Number 3, Leeds United. Leeds United are 3rd in the table right now. 3rd. Leeds United, 3rd in the table. Say that one more time. Leeds United are 3rd in the table right now. Okay? They have 2 wins, 1 draw, 7 points, including a masterful win against Chelsea, and they have just been they've just been throwing the kitchen sink at everybody. They've been playing better than I ever thought they would play after losing their two best players by a mile last season. Again, Rodrigo has been going off. Brendan Aronson and Jack Harrison have been going off. They've got such good players, and they're missing their captain, right back Luke Ayling, for that game because he'd been sent off in the previous game. Leeds, I tell you what, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with Leeds. Second, of course, is Manchester City. They sit second in the table. Of course, a faltering performance at Newcastle, but I think that because of how good Newcastle have been recently, I don't even think that that's a thing that necessarily hurts City as much as you would think it would, just simply based on Newcastle's form. They're building something over there and at Newcastle, and they're actually really good. They're actually really good. So City, this would be one of the teams that, for me, I would expect to give City a challenge, and of course they did. City only took a point off them as opposed to 3 that you might think they would have taken off of them. So, but they're still in second in my power rankings because, again, they're going to be up there or thereabouts the whole season. So they might lose points here and there, and I don't think Arsenal's invincible record is in jeopardy right now. But Manchester City are going to be up there for the whole season. And, of course, again, no surprises. Just like the player power rankings, Arsenal, number 1. The only team that's got a perfect record so far. Perfect record. Again, 3 matches played, 3 wins, 9 points out of a possible 9. 9 goals scored, only 2 against. Okay? Which I think is the second best defensive tally right now. Brighton only have 1 goal scored against them. Again, that's why Robert Sanchez was in my honorable mentions, who's the Brighton goalkeeper. So there's my power rankings for teams right now. And next, I want to talk about something that I hate talking about, and that thing is how I was wrong. Okay, so every podcast, I'm going to look at maybe something that I said in either the most recent podcast before that or in some sort of past podcast about how I was wrong, what I was wrong about. And I think it's pretty obvious now what I'm going to talk about because I did in my previous podcast, that was right before Match Week 1, I did my league predictions where I predicted both Brentford and Leeds United to go down. And I think I was wrong. I'm just about ready to walk both of those back. Both of those teams, I feel, have been really impressive. Both of them sit within the top half of the table right now. Leeds United has been absolutely going off. But again, Brentford had that 4-0 shellacking of Manchester United that was just crazy to see. I was actually recording and filming my other podcast that I do, which is the Richmond Gooners podcast. As part of a group with Ryan and Tom and sometimes Will or sometimes some other folks, but mainly me, myself, Ryan, and Tom within the Richmond Gooners. We're all part of the leadership structure of the Richmond Gooners. But we were filming that podcast and recording that podcast, and we actually started late because we were just sitting there enjoying watching Man United get the absolute shit kicked out of them by Brentford. It was 4-0 in the first half of that game. Wow. But, man, Leeds and Brentford, I'm just about ready to maybe walk these back. Right now, Leeds are 3rd in the table, and Brentford are 8th in the table. And I had them, I think, Brentford and Leeds, I think I had them 18th and 19th respectively as far as my predictions. I know it's early in the season and they still have a way to go, but based off of the way that these two teams have been playing now, like I said, I'm just about ready to walk that shit back because they've looked really good. And like I said, listen, I've been wrong before, once. It happens every once in a blue moon, but I'm just about ready to walk these back. I keep saying, and I think I said in my previous podcast, that I think Everton will figure it out and they won't go down. I don't know. I don't know. I might have been wrong about Everton too. I might have been wrong about Everton staying up. So I still think Bournemouth got an early win, but I still think that they will go down. It's just going to be. I still think it's going to be a tough year for Bournemouth. But yeah. So those are the things that I was wrong about in the past. And so lastly, I think I want to wrap it up with what I'm looking forward to, or the games that I'm looking forward to, or some of the things that I may be looking forward to from the upcoming match week, which is match week 4. So I think the game, and of course this is going to be outside of the Arsenal schedule, unless it's going to be like another top 6 or the North London Derby. Obviously, that's going to be my answer when that game comes around. But outside of Arsenal, who are playing Fulham tomorrow at 12:30, I think the game that the match that I'm most looking forward to is actually, and you might not think so because Chelsea and Leicester City are playing. There's probably going to be a really good game between Brighton and Leeds United, but I think I'm looking forward most to Manchester City versus Crystal Palace beyond the Arsenal game, because I think they're building something at Crystal Palace. I think Vieira is really digging his heels in and trying to get something going over there, and I think that based on Man City, what they are, who they are, I think that if they falter here and drop more points 2 weeks in a row to Crystal Palace, who, let's not forget, held Liverpool to a 1-1 draw, I think folks will start asking questions. So, and I think that is going to be a really good game, and I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think Joachim Andersen, who is a defender for Crystal Palace, is one of the most brilliant defenders in the league, actually. And he's also one of the best wind-up merchants in the league, too, as we can see from when the part that he played in getting Darwin Nunez sent off when they held Liverpool to that 1-1 draw. So he's a wind-up merchant, but also he's actually a really, really good player. So I'm interested to see how him and Johey will get along against Erling Haaland. I'm really looking forward to seeing that game. So that's the game that I'm most looking forward to seeing. Honorable mention again, Brighton Leeds United, because two teams that have kind of had a little bit more success than maybe a lot of us thought. Along with, of course, the Arsenal Fulham game. I just hope we can keep it going. Looking at our schedule, I hope we can keep it going to at least like 15 out of 15 or 18 out of 18. We'll see, if we have a draw in there. That's not the end of the world, but let's see how long we can go unbeaten for. So, yeah. But anyway, I think we've reached the end. Again, my name is Joey, and this is the King Joey Football Podcast, available on Anchor, available on Google Podcasts, or most places that you might get your podcasts, and also available on YouTube. If you've been listening or if you've been watching so far, I just want to say I really appreciate it. Appreciate you sticking with me, and I think I got maybe a little bit more of my personality across this time. I think I was a little nervous last time, but now I'm just talking and saying the things I want to say and talking about the things that I want to talk about. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend, because starting tonight we've got Virginia is for Gooners, which the Richmond Gooners are hosting, which involves our group, which is Richmond Gooners, the Virginia Beach Gooners, Arlington Gooners, and DC Armory, sort of the four main groups of Virginia, the four main Arsenal America supporter chapters in Virginia. We're going to get together, we're going to drink, we're going to have a good time. I'm running trivia, some Arsenal trivia tonight at Gus's Bar and Grill. So if you're an Arsenal supporter and you want to come out and join us, have a good time, have some drinks, it might get a little sloppy, which is fine. Do some trivia and just have some fun with some other Gooners. Man, come on out. We would love to see you. And you might win some prizes. We're going to be back out again tomorrow for the Arsenal Fulham game. We're going to do at Gus's. We're going to do that, of course, at Gus's, which is where we watch every game. We're also going to do a live podcast. We're going to have sort of a rotating door in our fourth podcast spot, or our fourth commentary spot on the podcast. So we might have several people come through and contribute 5-10 minutes to the podcast tomorrow. That should be a fun time. We're going to hit up the Richmond Kickers game tomorrow as well, and then we're going to go to Bingo Beer Company and close out the night, man, have a good time over there, and that's going to be kind of what Virginia's for Gooners the weekend is all about. So, again, if you're an Arsenal supporter, please come, hang out. We would love to have you. But other than that, again, my name is Joey, and this has been the King Joey Football Podcast. We'll see you next time. Peace.